Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz just had an epic battle in Cincinnati. Eventually, Djokovic won in 3 hours and 49 minutes, winning 5-7, 7-6, 7-6. Now, this match was a back and forth battle. It could have gone either way, but in this video, I want to take a look at some of the key stats and also some of the tactics that both players are employing against each other and what that means for the future, especially in those bigger matches at the Grand Slam. Now, here are some of the key stats from the match to really pay attention to. Now, on the first serve points won, Alcaraz won 72% and Djokovic won 67%. On second serve points won, Djokovic won 64% and Alcaraz only won 48%. So there is a big difference, and that's one of the key match stats. That's one of the ways that Djokovic was able to turn this match around and eventually win it. Djokovic ended up winning 66% of all his service points compared to Alcaraz winning 63%. And Djokovic won 37% of all return points, whereas Alcaraz won 34%. And like I said, there was very little in this match. At the end of the match, Djokovic ended up winning 51% of all points, winning 133 points in total, whereas Alcaraz won 128, so there was only 5 points difference in the entire points won. So how exactly did the match play out? Now, Djokovic started off very aggressively, taking the ball inside the court, taking as much as he could on the rise, and trying to move Alcaraz side to side, really trying to wear out his legs. Now, Alcaraz was being kind of pushed around at the start of the match, but what he was trying to do was neutralize play with a lot of heavy topspin shots, trying to push Djokovic further behind the baseline and just give himself some time to actually build that momentum and get himself into the match. And right from the beginning of the match, we could see that Djokovic was willing to use more variety, especially that slice, to try to keep the ball low, which makes it much harder for Alcaraz to then run around and hit that aggressive inside in or inside out forehand. However, by 4-all in that first set, we could see that Djokovic really started to struggle physically with the heat and his level started to drop. Now, Alcaraz ended up winning that first set 7-5, playing some very aggressive and solid tennis. Now, at the start of the second set, we could see that Djokovic's level dropped even further, and he was really looking like he was on the brink of collapsing. He looked very bad out there, and he went down 4-2, so he was a set and 4-2 down before he started to turn things around. Now, at 4-2 down, Djokovic played a solid service game to hold, and then Alcaraz's level dropped significantly in the next 2 games, which allowed Djokovic to break back and then take the lead going up 5-4. Now, watching the match, it seemed that Alcaraz relaxed at 4-2 up. He thought he was on his way to victory. Djokovic looked really bad at that stage, so he was probably thinking that the match had already finished. And this is where his level went down, and this is why it's so important that even when you're leading a match, even when you think you're just a few points away from victory, to carry on as if it's a close match, because remember, it's never over until that final ball has been hit. Djokovic ended up saving a match point at 6-5 down in that second set tiebreak, using an out wide serve and then the forehand into the space, that classic 1-2 punch. Then at 6-0 in that tiebreak, Djokovic decided to serve and volley, going out wide to the Alcaraz forehand and ending up winning with quite a nice volley. Now, this shows you that Djokovic is looking for different ways to win points against Alcaraz. He's looking at how he can actually break down the Spaniard. Djokovic then loses that set point by hitting a very unusual forehand error. And this shows you the state that Djokovic was in at this stage of the match. He was playing a very good point, and then the next point would be very poor. He looked off balance. He almost looked kind of drunk in a way. And it was very unusual. Obviously, the sun had hit him badly. At 7-all in the breaker, Alcaraz then gives Novak a very early Christmas present, and this allowed Djokovic to then win that second set tiebreak. And on that set point, they had a very long rally with a lot of different exchanges, a lot of variety. Alcaraz hitting some moon balls. They both hit a lot of slices. Eventually, Alcaraz tried to step in and hit the ball aggressively and ended up overhitting his backhand, hitting it into the net. At the beginning of the third set, we saw some really outrageous shots from Carlos Alcaraz, including this backhand pass right here. Djokovic then takes the lead in that third set, going up a break. Eventually, he had a match point at 5-3 where Alcaraz actually served and volleyed to save that match point, something that is very unusual for two players who are very well known for actually being great at the baseline. He then saves another match point with this insane forehand passing shot. Alcaraz eventually breaks back and they reach the tiebreaker. At 1-love, we then see this very interesting point between both players. Djokovic is further back behind the baseline, happy to grind. Carlos has stepped up and started taking the ball on the rise, trying to bully Novak. and he's moving Novak. It looks as if he has this point in the bag, but Novak then changes his positioning, stepping inside the court and taking time away from Carlos. So it was really that battle of who could take the ball on the rise better. And then at 3-2 in the tiebreak, we could see Carlos Alcaraz attacking Novak's second serve, coming to the net and hitting this outrageous volley. The biggest point of the match then occurs at 4-0 in the tiebreak. They get into a backhand-to-backhand exchange. Alcaraz decides for some reason to slice it cross-court. This gives Novak the ability to then move around his backhand and hit that inside-in forehand, which eventually wins him the point. Now at match point, Alcaraz then shanks a forehand return and Novak has sealed the deal. Now purely from a fan perspective, this was a really fun match to watch. There was a lot of ups and downs, there was a lot of drama involved, Djokovic struggling physically, coming back, turning the match on its head and eventually winning it. Alcaraz played some incredible tennis and once again showed us that he probably is the most complete 20-year-old we've ever seen. However, once I put my coach's cap back on and really start to analyze this match, there were a few key factors that helped Djokovic turn it around, but also going forward, some things to really look at. Now, after the match, Djokovic said that this was one of the hardest matches of his entire career, and that gives a lot of credit to the young Spaniard.
Just one of the most exciting and toughest mentally, emotionally, physically matches that I've ever had in my career.
Now, there are a few worrying factors here if you're Team Alcaraz. Number one, this was Djokovic's first event since Wimbledon. He hasn't played a match since that loss in July. So he isn't at his best, and he now has another week to actually have that last-minute preparation before the US Open starts. And typically we see Djokovic peaking in that second week at the Slams. Number two, Djokovic is now using much more variety in his game when he plays Alcaraz. He's willing to slice, he's willing to mix up the speeds and the spins, but he's also improving his net game, and we saw him win a lot of big points at the net using his volleys, which have improved significantly. And factor number three, Djokovic's motivation at the US Open this year will be massive. This is because he's missed the last two events because he's been unable to travel to the States. So he's going to be extremely motivated, and he has a big point to prove to all the haters, to everyone who's doubting him, and to everyone who has ridiculed him for his decisions. Now, if you're Team Djokovic, there are also worrying signs. Alcaraz seems to be improving week in and week out. And this is incredible considering the fact that he's so complete already. He's improving different aspects of the game. We could see in this match he was willing to step back and actually absorb Djokovic's pace and hit aggressive moonball backhands to try to push Novak back. His net game also seems to be improving, and we could see that he hit some incredible volleys. This is the kind of things that we would see from Rafter, Edberg or Henman. And another factor was Djokovic wasn't able to hit through Alcaraz. He hit some shots which would be winners against everyone else, but Alcaraz wasn't just able to get his racket on the ball, he was able to hit a winner like we can see here. So Djokovic is going to have to look for different ways to win points and break down the Spaniard. Now going into the US Open, who is the favorite? I would say that Djokovic is still the favorite, of course, because of his experience. He's won so many Grand Slams. Alcaraz is still very young, and overall he's much more raw at these big events. Djokovic has the experience, so heading into the big matches, Djokovic will always have a slight edge because he's dealt with it all. Having said that, Alcaraz physically looks in better shape. Alcaraz is hitting the ball slightly better, and he seems to be finding his rhythm on the first serve. Now on the second serve, this is where he can really improve, and this is where Djokovic actually won this match in my opinion. Djokovic was able to step in and take Alcaraz's second serve on the rise and punish Alcaraz, and this is something that Alcaraz will really have to work on in the coming weeks, coming months, and of course, if it doesn't improve, the coming years. So there you have it, my analysis of Alcaraz versus Djokovic in Cincinnati. If you've enjoyed this video, smash the like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. If there are any lessons you'd like to see from us in the near future, leave a comment down below. Signing off, Coach Simon from TTT, all the best and see you soon.